So last time we had these two problems laid it out for you and we didn't do it yet. In expander form and expander form with exponents. So when we do expander form, we are trying to write down the place value. The regular expander form, we need to list them with the place value. So 5 here means 5 what? 5 hundreds, okay? So I'm going to say 5 here means 5 times 100. Is it okay? Because the 100 is the place value. And then the 2 represent 2 what? That's why you get 20, right? And the 3 is 3 1. Like that. After the decimal place, we have 6 in what place value? That's tens, right? So it's going to be 110 like this. Is it okay? And the next one would be 0. Sometimes we don't write it, but if you write that, that would be 0. What place values? 1 over 100 in the hundredth value. How about 7? It's 10, 100, 7 in the thousand, so 1 over 1,000. And the last one is 9. So 10, 100,000, this is 10,000. Are we okay? We wrote down that question last time. This would be the answer. So one of your homework questions asks you to write down the place values with the expander form. So we will do that. And the next one would be the expander form with the exponent. So last time we kind of list the place value, but we're going to do that with the place value with exponents. First off, 5, this is 10 to what power if this is 100? You have 2 zeros, so it's 10 to the second power because it's 10 times 10, right? And the second one would be 2 times 10 to what power? This only have 1 0, 10 times just one of the 10 there. And then if you have a 1, 1 is 10 to what power? Yeah, anything raised to 0 power is going to be 1, right? And then for the 6, so you can think of this as 10 to the second, 10 to the first, 10 to the 0 power, and then the next one would be 10 to the negative 1 because it's in the denominator, right? So it's a negative exponent. And then for the 0, it's going to be 10 to the negative 2 because it's 2 0 in the denominator. And then 7 times 10 to the negative, and 9, 10 to the negative 4. So they just go in descending order, right? 10 to the 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Okay? You have a homework question, ask something like that. The next question also in your homework probably will be on your test, and that is a question that a lot of students miss. So this is asking you to write in decimal form first, and then they want you to add them up vertically. The answer. So students seems to have a hard time with this. I'm going to show you a lot of steps, and at the end I will tell you which step is required for the homework and also for your exam when you pick one. First, let's just translate what they mean first. If we have a negative exponent, how do I rewrite this to a positive exponent? What place value is this? Negative 3 mean what place values? 1,000, so it's going to be 1 over 10 to the third power. To replace a negative exponent to a positive, you put 1 over it. That's from college algebra. And then the next one, this means how many zeros do we have? 3 0. 1, 2, 3, got it? For this one, I want to rewrite that as a positive exponent, so it would be 1 over 1. 10 to the second power, and the last one would be 7, 1 over the 6th power. Just to rewrite that as positive, I just want to make sure you understand how this works. If we have The third power mean how many zeros? 3 zeros. Okay, this one is still 4 times 1,000. And then the next one would be 5 with how many zero at the denominator? 2. And the next one, 7. This is 1 over how many zeros? 6. Which means the first one has how many decimal places? This is thousands. How many decimal places do we have? Is point what? 0, 0, 1. Do we agree? So the easiest way to think is you have 3 0, right? So 3 decimal places. That's all. Yeah, so probably match the other one. That would be 1 with 2 0 here. Thank you. So the next one is still the place value is 1,000. So I'm going to leave it like that. And the next one would be 5. This time, how many decimal places? 0.01 because 20 at the bottom in 2 decimal places, right? The last one, 7 times how many decimal places? 6, right? Because you have 6 zeros, so it's going to be 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then, sorry, there's a 1 here. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. 1. Okay, so we need to multiply them together. So the first number mean what? Multiply, you have 0.003 adding 4,000 adding 0.05 adding how many zero? 5 0 and then so at this point I think we can add them up vertically. When you add them up vertically, because they are decimal number, we need to do what? Line up the decimal. So don't rearrange their order, just do it like that. 0.003. And then we have 4,000. I need more space. Line up the decimal and base values. The next one is 0.05. 0.000007, right? So just make sure they all have the same number of decimal places. If you need more, you can add more zero at the end, right? And then you have the addition sign. So line up the decimal points and add decimal places so they all have the same number of decimal places. The whole number part will be 4,000 decimal point. The first part on the 10 we have 0 and then 5, 3, 0, 0, 7. So that's your answer here. So we write the final answer is 4,000 decimal point 0.53007. Is that okay? So this one is a little bit complex. Make sure you practice it. The required step for me, the minimum step that I require you to show me would be here, this part. Have each number multiplied to the place values and then the actual part of each number, add them vertically, find me the answer. Okay? Next question, we want to be able to name decimal number and fraction between decimal number. This question we want is naming it between 0.9 and 1. Make sure you write the question first before you do anything. This one we're going to have my 0.9, my 1 here equal to. Our strategies here, we want to line up the decimal and add more zeros at the so they have the same number of decimal places, right? So for this particular one, what do I need to add? 0 here, okay, so this is like 10 and 9. It's still kind of difficult to add a number between them. So what do you recommend me to do? Add a zero. So on the homework, you have some different way to show me it. You can use different color, but when you use different color, try to avoid red color because I don't know if I did it or you did it. I want you to use different color, but probably not red. I need to add another zero. So if you're not using different color, the other way to show it is you can underline this part so I know this is the part that you added. Okay? But you need to show clearly what you did. If I add more zeros, so earlier it's just 10 and 9, I cannot find a number between them easily. But now we have 90 and 100, right? To find a number between them, it could be what? The answer can be 0.91, 0.92, 0.93, something like that, right? So any of them can be considered as correct answer. So I'm going to say just pick this one. Is it okay? And let's do another one. Number 2. If the question is 3.499 and 3.5, the first thing I want you to do is what? Write down the question one more time. Write them. Because I don't want you to mess with the question. I need to see originally how does it look like. But when I rewrite them, I'm going to line them up with the decimal points and do what? Add 0. So how many 0? If I add 2 here, I'm going to underline it so to show that's what I added. Can I find a number between 499 and 500? Not easily, right? So I should do what? Add one more 0 at the end of both. So now we have more room, right? And I can compare them easily. Now it's 4,990 and 5,000. So easily I can find a number between them as a decimal, which is what? Point 499. What? 1 would be okay. 2, 3, 4, 5 until 9, right? So I'm going to just say 7, 4, 9, 9, 2. I don't know. So any number between those two is going to be okay. Question for this. Another type of question you will see on your homework or exam will ask you to name a fraction decimal number. This one would be 7.12 and 7.13. So read your question carefully because last semester people just keep giving the decimal number. So fraction. What is the first step? We need to first write down the question. Don't mess with the questions. Ask us to find what? A fraction between them. So naturally I should convert them to a fraction. How? The first one is what? You have 7 as your whole. 12 is your numerator. You have 12 out of, how did you know it's 12 out of 100? Because it's 10 and 100 place, right? And the next fraction is going to be 7, 13 over 100 because it's in 100 place. How do I find a fraction between them? 0, okay? So if you're just adding 0, which means you are adding 0 where? Top and bottom. That's essentially mean you're multiplying a 10 on top and 10 at the bottom, right? So you're just expanding them to an equivalent fraction. So either way, you can multiply by 10 or you just add a 0 at the end. Either way is okay. But if you're not doing multiply by 10, at least use a different color so I know that's what you did there, okay? So this would be 7 with a 120 per 8,000. If you didn't do this step, at least like show me you use a 0 at the end and that's different, okay? That's what I'm looking at. So now I have a little bit more room, right? If I need an answer between these two fractions, I can pick what? 7 and... Okay, I like 121 better. Do you know why? Because the one you pick, I need to do what? She said earlier is 7, 125, 1000, which is perfectly fine. But if you pick this number, you're going to need to reduce it for me, okay? So reduce by 1. So try 25. 125 divided by 25 is 5. And 1,000 divided by 25 is 40. Oh, I have to go further. So divided by 5, divided by 5, this is going to be 7 and 1 over 8. If you pick a number they are relatively prime to each other, then it's yours. So, but either way, it's going to be fine. All right. Next, we are going to do some rounding for decimal number. So, what is the general rules for rounding? Is 5 or higher? Then you do what? Round up to the next number. Less than 5. Yeah, like the older generation, they stay the same. But some of the new textbooks they round down and they're both correct. It's just like how you interpret that. For me, I stay the same number, but some of the book will say round down. Show you what they mean. Okay, let's say we are rounding to whole number. First one, I can have 25.71. Second one, I can have the second one. Let's do 1, 2. So if I'm rounding to the whole number, again, I told you try to write the question one more time. I want to see what you did to that. Deciding if the 5 need to change or not, right? Basing on which number? The 7. So somehow you need to mark these two numbers so I know you are basing on them. If this is 7, then we should round up to, the answer is 26. And this one, we are deciding if the 19, the 9 need to change basing on the 1. The 1 is less than 5, so the answer would be 19. For me, I'm staying the same number as 19, right? But for the newer book, sometimes they may say it was more than 19, it's 19.12, so it's down to just 19. So that's what they mean by round down to 19. It's supposed to mean the same. All right, let's do some other example for rounding decimal. One of them, I have 17.851. I want to round it to the nearest 10. The second one, I have 190.4. I want to round it to the nearest 100. And the third one, I have 599.996. I want to round it to the nearest hundredths. I'm going to rewrite this number 17.851. We're trying to decide which number to change or not. The 8 is your 10, so we want to change the 8 or not basing on what? The 5. So you don't have to make like this is the most line. You just mark these two numbers so I know something is going on here. This one we are going to round it to 10.9 because 5 is 5 or more, right? So we round it up to 9. Is that okay? The next one, I'm going to write this number one more time, 190.481. This time I need to decide to change which one or not. The 8 basing on the 1 here. Now we're going to have the answer of 48. 8 stay the same or we round it down to 8. Is it okay? Because 1 is not more than 5 or 5. Okay, the last one, I need to figure out which one is my hundredth values, which is cute. There's so many 9, right? So this is your 10, this is the 100, right? So I need to decide if I'm changing this number or not basing on the 6. Okay, this time I'm sorry, why did I do that? I should rewrite my question, right? So 996. So I'm focusing on 10, 100, this number. And this side is 6, right? So the answer should be, so I need to round this up to what? It's like a 10 and then this move, right? It's hard for students to think about it sometimes, so think about it as money. This is $599.99. If I want to round it, it will become 600, right? So this is going to be $600 or 600. I need how many place value to the 100? So if you just give me that, that's not going to be full credit, okay? I still need my tens and I still need my 100 value. So this would be your answer. Is that okay? So that would be important to include the hundreds place. 0 for them. Okay, the next one seems to be a little bit more challenging for students. So let's do an example for that. They ask you to put things in order. The greatest to the least. I'm not sure for your homework is greatest to the least or least to the greatest. Please read your question carefully. The number they're doing is 0.38, 0.045, and zero point 0.4. Just looking at these three numbers, which one is the greatest one? 0.38, and then the last one would be. So this seems to be confusing for some students. Do you know why? Like when they see this, the very young children will think this is 45, would be bigger than 38, would be bigger than 4. But they are not in the same place values, right? So in order to compare them, it would be better if they have the same number of place value, or you can change them to fraction and they need to be like equal size pieces to compare them. So they want you to do it three different ways. The easiest way and the most normal way is going to be line up with decimal and you add zeros. So they will have the same place values. I don't know if this is the first part for your homework, so make sure you read the question carefully, okay? When you do your homework, use your own paper. You don't have to write out all the wording and stuff. Just clearly mark this as number 1, part 1, or something, number 1, part 2. Then you don't have to copy the question. But you need to leave me plenty of room so I can give you feedback, okay? This one, we are going to write down the question first. You always should write down the question so we can see the original question look like what. So I'm going to rewrite that one more time. Make sure you line up the decimal and space them evenly out so we can compare them easily. 0.4 here. After I line up the decimal points, I need to add 0 at the end, right? Either use a different color or you can underline it or you can do both. I will add 1 0 here, I will add 2 0 here. So now they are lined up with the decimal point and also have the same number of place values, right? These I can see easily. This is 380, this is 45, this is 400, right? That would help me to put them in order. So at this point, you can write them in order with this and then in order with that. And if I'm lazy, I can just order them on the side. So this one, greatest to the least, right? So greatest to the least, the biggest one is this guy, right? So this is the greatest one. The next one would be 38. And the last one would be 45. So I can order it here, but when you put 1, 2, 3 like this, circle it, otherwise it look like part of this number, okay? You can list them out, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to name that, but I'm going to put the original question as my answer. So 0.4 is the biggest one, greater than, this one is the second, 0.38 is greater than 0.045. Are we okay? So that would be one of the strategies. Pull out your notes when you do your homework, okay? The second type is a little bit harder, but I want to see as teacher, can you use fractions to compare them? So because we are using fractions, we're going to need to write down the question first, which we have 0.38, 0.045, and zero point 0.4. And we're going to need to convert them to fractions. Okay, fractions. First one is what? 38 on top. The hundredths place, or they have two decimal places. That's why you have 20, right? Two decimal places, 20 at the bottom. The next one would be what on top? 45 on top. How many zeros? This has 3 decimal places, so 30 at the bottom. Are we okay? A thousand. This is 10, 100, thousands. The last one is 410 because it's 1 decimal place. This is 10 at the bottom. This is in the 10 place. How do I compare them? They're going to need to have the common denominator. What is the common denominator here? 1000. You can either add zeros, but if you just add 0, make sure you use a different color for me. Or the first one can multiply what? 10. Second one, nothing. Last one, 100. Everybody will have 1000 at the bottom, right? So the first fraction will become 380 over 1000. The second one just stay the same. The last one we have 400 over 1000, like that. Now they have the same denominator, I mean they have equal size pieces, right? If the top is bigger, the number is bigger, right? So I'm gonna number them, put them in order, or you can, write a fraction greatest to this, but I'm lazy. So which one is the biggest one? The 400 one, right? And then the next one would be 380 out of 1000. The last one would be 45 out of 1000. So I label them to the orders, then I can just write the final answer. The final answer for this one will be, this guy is 0.4, 0.38 greater than 0.045. Okay? The hardest one. The last one asks you to use the number line. You need to be very good at really knowing where they are. In order to do that, use the number line. We're going to need to draw a number line from what to what. We don't have to go 0 to 1. We can go from 0 to 0.5 is fine. And even you can just go to what? The biggest number is 0.4. We are not going to go beyond that, right? If I have 0 to 0.4, I can divide this into how many equal parts? 4 equal parts. So half here and then half again. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Now we can immediately spot 0.4 is here, right? Where is 0.38? Close to 0.4 and here, right? Because it's 38, right? So it's going to be close to here, 0.38. Are we okay? And the last one is 0.045. Where is 0.045? 0.05, right? So this is like 0.05. So the 0.045 would be before that, after that? Why before that, right? So about here, 0.045. Using that, also we should be able to see the smallest one is this guy, this is the second, this is the bigger, so it's the 0.4 is the greatest, and then 0.38, and then 0.045. You have to write the answer for each part, okay?